7 things you may notice if you're suffering from narcissistic abuse. So the romance is over and the relationship has crumbled around you. The fake future has now turned to dust and your heart is crushed and you're left on the floor wondering what the hell happened. Meanwhile, in a faraway land, fake futures are being created for a new fairy tale romance. If at the end of your relationship you've been left wondering what the hell happened, it's quite possible that you had been involved in a relationship with an emotional abuser or a toxic person. And it isn't usually until the relationship is over that people start to wonder what did happen. Not only are you wondering what the hell happened, you also believe this is all your fault. 7 signs you might be suffering from narcissistic abuse. Number 1, loneliness. You feel very lonely or empty inside. Loneliness after being in an emotionally abusive relationship, it could be for so many reasons. You're actually focused on protecting the relationship that you forgot to protect yourself. And what was happening was this manipulation that was going on. You had everything sucked out of you. And finally, when you've either realised what's been going on or you've been discarded, you turn around and there's nobody there. And you're feeling so empty inside, you've got nothing left. And it feels like your soul has been sucked out of you. During these relationships, you might have been isolated from your friends and family. And the loneliness is not understanding what's happened and also nobody else understanding what happened. You put on a mask that everything was okay, but behind the scenes it wasn't. The people around you are as shocked as you are when the relationship is over. Nobody understands what you've been through. People might say, can't you just get over it, or shouldn't you be over this by now? It's like a gaping hole has been taken out of you. You've had everything sucked out of you. And everything you believe to be true is now turning out to be a lie. You've lost everything. You need time to grieve. You're grieving the fake future and you're grieving your manufactured soulmate. And this loneliness might be bringing up feelings of unworthiness. They have moved on and they leave you feeling very alone. And towards the end of the relationship, they told you time and time again what was wrong with you, what you were doing wrong. And you believed them. Not only have you lost yourself emotionally, mentally, physically and spiritually, you may wake up and find you've lost out financially. There's a loneliness deep within you, emanates. You can barely function and you don't understand who you are. And you don't even know if the real you is still there. Pain you're experiencing, these are old wounds that are coming up. On average, people go back to these types of relationships 7 to 8 times. And I believe it's the fear of loneliness, fear of not understanding how you're going to function without them, how you can live without them, that makes people go back. Because the pain they are feeling out of the relationship is greater than the feeling they were in the relationship. Number 2, feelings of not being good enough. You've got to remember, this is a manufactured relationship. Unfortunately, you didn't understand that at the beginning. It's now something you've got to understand to get closure. You were treated in this amazing way. You were swept off your feet. You possibly never experienced this type of attention in your life. And then you might have noticed the odd comment. Things they found amazing about you in the beginning, they started to question. And if you picked up on it, they might tell you that you were being oversensitive or they were only joking. And these are belittling comments. These are subtle put down. And if they don't feel they've got you to the right stage, they take you back around to the idealisation stage. And in fact, they do that anyway. They're trying to hook you up into this cycle to get you to override your intuition, to override your normal feelings. They might compare you to other people, to their exes, to anybody that's in their life. They create drama within situations. They use techniques such as triangulation. They do that to draw you into them. They created these situations so that it made them look popular, and you would then fight for their attention. They triangulated you. Love to turn people against each other, and they keep them just far enough apart so they can't compare anything, but close enough to ensure that you knew they were a threat. They were manufacturing situations to make you feel jealous and question their fidelity. And each time they're doing it, you're believing that something is wrong with you. You're believing them when they're manipulating your reality. They use techniques such as gaslighting. So you might have discovered something and they've told you you've misunderstood a situation or you've got something wrong. Again, they're telling you that you're not good enough, that you can't trust yourself. And all the time they're doing this, they're putting themselves into a place of power and control. So when the relationship is over, you don't believe you can live without them. You don't believe you can function out of the relationship. And this creates a loneliness and feelings of not being good enough. Number 3, you're lost without the relationship. They may use manipulation techniques to alienate you from other people. They sabotage real relationships with others, resulting from you being cut off with your friends and family. And they may use it in professional relationships as well. And you find yourself no longer attending groups, clubs, meetings, networking. And they might make up stories about other people. They're feeding you with information, making you question your other relationships. They can't risk you speaking to anybody else. They can't risk being exposed. They are visible to other people, but unfortunately the bonding techniques that they use have made them invisible to you. They bonded you. You might have woken up in the morning to messages from them, and the same maybe before going to bed. You believe this was because the first thing they were thinking about was you. They love the attention they get from playing these roles. The quicker they can get you secured into a relationship, the easier it is for them. So when the relationship ends, you don't know who you are. You don't know how to function without them. You have these awful feelings of not being good enough and this devastating emptiness inside. Number 4, your boundaries were eroded and you don't know who you are. They use techniques such as triangulation to create a sense of being popular, and you end up competing with invisible people. They talk about their exes far too much, and they're still in contact with a lot of them. The triangulation makes you feel insecure, and you shift your focus on protecting the relationship rather than protecting yourself. They might use other techniques such as coercive control, and this could be sexual coercive control, where things that you may never consider, you end up finding yourself in those situations. It might be that you've discovered an infidelity and they tell you that the reason this infidelity happened was because you wouldn't oblige, and you're then put in a position where you have to decide if you want to stay in this relationship and compromise your own integrity. You don't even know if this is true, and of course this was all your fault. And with financial coercive control, they put people in positions where they have very little money. They can't do anything for themselves. They may withdraw funds or forget to pay, and you end up paying for everything. You end up financially supporting them, and they are running around spending their money on themselves or other people, but it won't be on you. And you're left scraping around to pay bills, to find money for repairs, to pay for the food that goes on the table. The coercive control might be around things like your charity work and volunteering. Do you remember why you stopped doing it? Perhaps the coercive control is around your time and the people that you are in relationships with. Were you worried if you weren't around to supply them with the attention they needed, it would be supplied by somebody else? What about your friends and family? Did you start to make excuses and changing your plans to make sure you were more available for them? Someone who has respect for you wouldn't make you feel insecure. In fact, they would want you to feel secure, and they would do anything in their power to keep you feeling that way. They would want you to be you, love you for who you are. They would not be manipulating your emotion, your time, your money, your boundaries. Number 5, your self-esteem is on the floor. Put-downs and belittling remarks were masked by fake friendliness or advice, or they might just be words of wisdom. These are made to make them feel better about themselves, making them feel more knowledgeable. Belittling was done to confuse you and to maintain power and control over you and your life. They use blame shifting to disguise their actions, taking the focus off their behaviour, because they can never take responsibility for any of their actions. They wouldn't have behaved the way they did, reacted in the way they did, if it wasn't for something that you'd done or somebody else had done. When your intuition is telling you that something is wrong, perhaps you tried to discuss it, the conversation transferred to you and your behaviour. You may have found your feelings being minimised by playing the victim. They aren't to blame for their actions, and it serves another purpose. They got the supply of attention they so desperately needed. They use blame shifting to minimise your feelings and circular conversations that left you confused. Or they guilt-tripped you with their pity stories. And then they've walked away. They've told you that you're the only person who's ever understood them, who's ever got them. And you do everything in your power to protect them, to help them, maybe to heal them. And then they walk away, leaving you and your self-esteem on the floor. Number 6, your energy is on the floor. At the end of the relationship, you might be able to see this cycle, maybe write it out, and start to see how things fit into place. This cycle of idealisation, devaluation and discard. It goes round and round and round like a bicycle wheel. And at the end of the relationship, whether you finally understood what was going on or they have found somebody else and discarded you, you've got nothing left. Your energy is on the floor. They're like vampires. They've sucked you dry in every area of your life and you're no longer of use to them, so they walk away. This cycle of abuse challenges you on every level. It causes confusion and the brain fog is horrific. Also the stress that it puts on your body. They were like a chef. They were just testing a recipe. Had they got the seasoning of the dish just right? They did the flavours until it was perfect. And they discovered at the right point you were more invested in the relationship than you were in yourself. This abuse is a bit like a frog in a pan of boiling water. A frog would jump out. It's heated up gradually so that the frog gets used to it. And then it starts boiling it alive. And it's the same with the abuse. If you discovered anything or you weren't happy about their behaviour, they told you they're so sorry and they'll never do it again until the next time. Or they make sure they cover their tracks. And now at the end of the relationship, there's nothing left of you and they have found a new supply of energy, a new supply of attention, and they've left with their pity stories, their bad childhoods, tell the tale to somebody else. And you're left with the pain of this loneliness where you're addicted to the relationship and you're left completely lonely because of these bonds that were created, because of the hormones that were being released that you got addicted to, and they've gone off to do that to somebody else. Number 7, you're replaying the relationship, if only and maybe. It's all the what ifs and maybes, questioning the relationship. Was it real? And a really painful one, did they love me? And maybe an actually even more painful one was the realisation that they didn't. You might even be going back over the relationship step by step, questioning what if you had done something differently? What if you hadn't said something? And then you may go over the maybes. Maybe if you'd done something differently, would you be here? Maybe if you hadn't done something, would it be different? Eventually you will realise you couldn't have done anything differently. If you had, you would have been giving even more of your soul away. The relationship may have lasted a little longer, but it was always going to end. If you've experienced any of these, it is very possible you're in an emotionally abusive relationship, bound by the invisible chains, but you can untangle from them. Understanding what happened and why, reprogramming yourself to understand this wasn't your fault and take responsibility for the part that was. Understanding and healing the original wound is crucial. Understanding the cycles, understanding why it happened, and starting to build yourself back up again, bit by bit, piece by piece. I'm sending you loads and loads of love.